All right, let's dive into one of the most unbelievable underdog stories in the history of sports. Seriously. This is a story about a team that wasn't just supposed to lose, it was like they were culturally forbidden from ever winning the whole thing, until they did. This is how the Indiana Hoosiers literally changed the game of college football.
I mean, just let that quote sink in for a second. That's from Indiana's head coach, Curt Cignetti, right after achieving the unthinkable. A perfect season, a national championship at Indiana. So the big question is, how on earth did we get here?
Okay, to really get what Indiana pulled off, you have to understand this giant psychological wall that was standing in their way. It's this line that separates just kind of hoping for the best from truly, deep down, believing you can win.
See, in the world of college football, if you're a fan of one of those long-suffering teams, you're always allowed to hope, right? You can hope for a winning season, maybe a trip to a decent bowl game, but to actually believe your team could win a national title, people would think you were crazy. This unspoken rule, this is what we're calling the permission structure. It's this idea that only a small handful of elite blue blood programs have the resources, the history, and, let's be honest, the right to even compete for a championship. Everyone else, you're kind of just there to fill out the schedule.
So how do you tear down a structure that's been standing for generations? Well, you don't just ask nicely. You hire a demolition expert. And for Indiana, that man was Coach Curt Cignetti.
Everyone just calls him Sig, and this guy has a track record of winning. I mean, everywhere he goes, he wins. He showed up in Indiana with this total no-nonsense attitude, brought a core group of his toughest, most trusted players with him from James Madison, and pretty much told the entire Big Ten, get ready.
And this quote from IU alum and donor Mark Cuban just nails his whole philosophy. Cignetti wasn't out there chasing five-star recruits who might be great in a few years. Nope. He wanted guys who are proven, productive football players right now.
So this brings us to the actual strategy. Their championship formula wasn't about trying to outspend the Giants. It was about outthinking them, being smarter. This is the question that every fan of an underdog team asks themselves, right? In this new era of massive NIL deals, how is a program that doesn't have bottomless pockets supposed to compete with the financial titans of the sport? Cignetti's answer was, well, it was almost revolutionary in how simple it was. You don't. You just have to be smarter. And just listen to Cignetti himself. This is right after winning it all. He's telling everybody straight up, we did not buy this championship. He completely shot down that whole story that they just threw a bunch of money at the problem.
So what is the blueprint then? Well, it's this really clear 5-step process. First, you find tough, overlooked guys nobody else wants. Then you are surgical and strategic in the transfer portal. You coach them up. You build a roster that's mature and physical above all else. And then the final piece, you find a tough, veteran quarterback like Fernando Mendoza to run the whole show.
And the results, I mean, they just speak for themselves. You had a team like Texas with a reported war chest for its players, and they lost 3 games. Indiana, operating on a smarter budget, lost 0. It just proves that all the money in a billionaire's portfolio can't buy you grit, physicality, and ice in your veins composure.
So when Indiana won that championship, it wasn't just a win for one school. No way. It was like an earthquake that sent shockwaves across the entire college football landscape.
Suddenly, that whole permission structure was just shattered. All at once, every other program that had been told for decades you can't win was suddenly given permission to believe they could.
You know, like Cignetti said, this was bigger than football. It was a message to everyone that if you have the right people around you and you just work relentlessly, the impossible can actually become possible.
And he was quick to point out, this was not some team of superstars. He said they didn't have 8 first-round draft picks on the roster. This was a win for team building, for coaching, for strategy, not just for hoarding the most talent. And you could almost feel that belief spreading instantly. To the fans in Kentucky, to Illinois, to Missouri, to every single fan base that had been trained to just hope for a pretty good season. Now, they could actually believe. I mean, think about Kentucky. They're literally right across the river from Indiana. They had a front row seat to this whole miracle, and you just know they were looking over there thinking, hey, why not us? And the impact was immediate. It was undeniable. Just listen to this from Kentucky's new coach, Will Stein. The ripple effect wasn't some theory. It was happening in real time. That excitement is very real, and it feels like a whole new era of possibility is here.
So, when you step back from it all, what's the big takeaway from this incredible story? What does it all mean for the future of the sport?
It means this.
The permission structure, that unwritten rule that said only the rich and the famous programs were allowed to win, it is officially broken. The Indiana Hoosiers took a sledgehammer to it, and the game is never, ever going to be the same.
Indiana gave every single underdog in the country the blueprint. It's not about who has the most money anymore. It's about who's the smartest, who's the toughest, and who's the most disciplined. So the only question left is, who's next?